Tradition on every Tuesday of the football season, starting with week 1, the power rankings, completely meaningless, non-binding. In football, they figure it out on the field. You qualify for the playoffs, and then you work your way through the tournament. However, there's something about seeing all 32 teams, and there's the top 16, as you can see, ranked together, even before any games have been played, Charean. I didn't even, I just kind of got the thought over the weekend, hey, football season's coming. I probably should do power rankings on Tuesday, and I did, and people got fired up. They get engaged. They get passionate. I love that. I love that people get upset about it. I love that they have that fire and brimstone for their favorite team. That's what brings them to the game. That's what gets them to tune in. That's what gets them to read PFT and watch this show. They care very deeply about the teams they follow. So I was happy with all the animosity that this collection of 32 teams created yesterday.
Yeah, they do it in college football too, Mike. Same thing. Why is my team ranked so low? Why did we move up after this win, et cetera, et cetera? So they're passionate about football, but guess what? It is meaningless. If your team goes out and wins every single game at the end of the year, I would bet they're going to be number 1 on that power ranking.
And it's not a prediction of how the season's going to go. It's where the teams currently are. And there is a clear element of history that factors into it. It's where they were, what they've done, what the overall vibe is around the team, and where they fit relative to each other. And the reality is there has to be someone at 32. There has to be someone at 28. There has to be someone at 19. You can't have all the teams clustered into the top 10. That's the problem, and that's why I think it pisses so many people off. Something like this disrupts the bubble, right? The delusion into which fans can allow themselves to reside when their team is 0-0. Because you can make yourself think, we're better than that team, we're better than that team, we're better than that team. We're a top 10 team. To get back to the point we were making earlier in the show, top half quarterback, top half team. Well, look at all the teams. You don't fit in the top half. And Charean, the one that got the most reaction that I noticed was the Broncos at 19. Because there is a lot of optimism around the Broncos. Well, there is. You've got Russell Wilson. You've got new ownership. You've got a team that hasn't made it to the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl 7 years ago. That's one of the reasons why they're 19. They haven't been to the playoffs in 7 years. They're in a division that is cripplingly difficult right now. You look at the 4 teams in the AFC West. Who's number 4? It's the Broncos right now.
Somebody's got to finish last.
Somebody's got to be in 4th, and somebody's got to be 19th. So I think for a lot of Broncos fans who have been caught up in this optimism, this let's ride, this everything's great, everything's awesome, I think it was just a cold splash of water in their face yesterday when you look at the teams. And when I worked on it over the weekend, it's like, hey, this is where they fit. This is where they fall. This is where they are. It's up to them. The power is in their hands to rise up from 19. And if they do, they will have earned it.
And they'll get plenty of chances to do that, Mike. I do have a question. Do you always do the Super Bowl champion as number 1 coming into the next season? Or could they have taken a step back, say if the Rams lost some of those players, they would take a step back and you might have them lower than 1?
I'm a firm believer in King of the Hill. And as I said in the actual power rankings with the descriptions, the bad news is there's only one direction you can go if you're the Rams. And there hasn't been anyone who's been wire to wire number 1. But they're the Kings of the Hill. And I think it would take quarterback retirement or major exodus of talent, coach leaves, something along those lines to get a team not reinstalled as number 1. And chances are, they're going to lose a game, and there's going to be somebody else in striking distance who's undefeated who takes the number 1 spot. That's going to happen. It could happen as soon as Thursday night, given that they're 2.5-point underdogs against the Buffalo Bills, who come in at number 3. I'm surprised there weren't more complaints from Bills fans about only being number 3, since they are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl. Let's take some questions that were submitted last night via Twitter. These are the things that we can actually use, the observations that don't have to have words blurred out of them because people were so upset. Chef Nick 80, which team do you think has the best chance of rising the most spots in the current rankings? And, Charean, I would have to say the team that came in, I believe, at number 29, the Jaguars. I think they're at 29. We may have to pull up the graphic to be sure about that. There they are at 29. And there was a team that was at number 29 last year that ended up doing pretty well for themselves. They are the Cincinnati Bengals. So, with Urban Meyer gone, Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning coach, in, plenty of talented players on both sides of the ball, I look at in that last column, 25 through 32, I look at the Jaguars as the team that's got the greatest chance to climb. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to go with the Saints at 20th, and I actually have them winning that division over the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers go into the playoffs. And I know, and I do agree with you, losing Sean Payton, the Saints are going to lose something there, especially at play caller, not having him on the sideline. But you think about their history with Tom Brady and beating the Buccaneers the way they have. If they do that again this year, they're going to have a really good chance to win that division. And I think they have a really good roster. So I think the Saints have a good chance to move up from 20th. And I look at the Dolphins there, too. I think they have a chance to move up from 18. So those would be the two teams probably at the bottom there that I think have the best chance to move up. What do we think of the Panthers? I mean, are we underestimating? Does Baker Mayfield have a chance to make a big difference there?
I think the key for the Panthers is, can they keep Christian McCaffrey healthy and other key players healthy, and can Baker Mayfield thrive whenever adversity strikes? I think that's one of the reasons they had a quarterback competition at a psychological level. They wanted to see how he would deal with it. They're trying to see, is he maturing? Has he learned from what happened last year in Cleveland? I think the Panthers could be contenders, but you got to have Christian McCaffrey available, and you got Ben McAdoo as your offensive coordinator, and Matt Rule's on the hot seat. This is something that could get knocked sideways pretty easily for the Panthers, but I could see them becoming a very competitive team, and I think they're going to win this weekend, week 1, when the Browns come to town. And that leads to this next question from Best Bark in C-Town. What would the Browns be ranked if they had Deshaun Watson for a full season? Well, they wouldn't be 21. I would probably have them bottom of top 10, in that range, 9, 10, 11, something like that, if Deshaun Watson didn't have any of these issues, if he wasn't going to be suspended, if there wasn't this vibe just kind of lingering around the team that they've sold their souls all in the name of winning a Super Bowl at some point in the next 5 years. I think if they just got Deshaun Watson without any of these entanglements, they'd be 9, 10, 11 in my mind, Charean.
Yeah, I think they would be better than the Cowboys, who you have at 10, Mike. So I agree with that, probably in that right 10 range, probably higher than the Cowboys are. But you have all those other things going into this and him not being there. So I think they're ranked about where they should be right now.
I actually think 21 is kind of kind. We'll see how they do, though, with Jacoby Brissett as the starting quarterback and how many wins they can finagle in the 11 games that Deshaun Watson will miss. Next question from Mapeosum. What made the Ravens miss out on the top 10? And there they are at number 12. I mean, it ultimately is a numbers game. And I'm concerned about the Lamar Jackson contract situation more than I was last year, because last year he wasn't thinking about it. He wasn't trying to get a deal done. He was locked in on football. He wasn't engaging at all with the Ravens in an effort to get a contract. This year, something has happened to cause him to recognize, I should probably go ahead and get my contract. And it makes me wonder, when you look at the injury he had last year against the Browns, took a low hit, it was a clean hit, he was out of the pocket, not a violation of the rules in any way, shape, or form, but it messed up his ankle, he missed some time. I think that how can you not at some point hear the noise that you play the position in a more physical way than any other quarterback in the league? At some point, the hits are going to accumulate and you're going to get injured, or you're just not going to be able to play like you used to. You could have the Cam Newton thing where there's really nothing seriously wrong with Cam Newton physically. He just was so banged up over 10 years in football, he can't do it anymore. That's what Lamar Jackson is looking at eventually, potentially, and that's why he needs to get paid. So, Charean, my big concern is, will he be more hesitant and careful until he gets his contract? And also, I don't know how I feel about Lamar Jackson at 230 pounds. Well, we've seen this dynamic in the NFL this year where multiple quarterbacks suddenly have the Takeo Spike's neck. That's how kind of big and thick they are. Jimmy Garoppolo has it. Trevor Lawrence has it. Lamar Jackson has it. Is he still going to have his explosion at 230 pounds? Is he still going to be able to run away from guys the way that he used to? Or is he just going to end up taking more contact when he tries to take off with the football? I'm really concerned about that.
Yeah, I don't have the Ravens making the postseason, and the one reason I think they have a chance to make the postseason, I think John Harbaugh is in the top half of the coaches, Mike. In fact, he's probably in the top 5, at least the top 10. He's a really good coach, so he gives them a chance. But I just look at that roster, and again, it's a difficult division outside of the Browns, at least until they get Deshaun Watson back. They do have a good roster. You're not just going to walk out on the field and beat the Browns. But you look at that division, and again, somebody's got to finish 4th, somebody's got to finish 3rd, somebody's got to finish 2nd, and somebody's got to finish 1st. So it's a really tough division. And when I look at that roster, I just don't know that it stacks up with the Steelers roster and with the Bengals roster. And that's why I didn't have them making the postseason. But it all goes back to Lamar Jackson and how he plays. And I'm with you between the illness, the injury, and everything else he had last season. I haven't seen the Lamar Jackson of the MVP year since the MVP year. And I want to see that Lamar Jackson. And if we see that this year, they're going to make the postseason. If we don't see that this year, they're going to be on the outside looking in yet again.
Someone did this, and I can't remember who, but you see so many things flash in front of your eyes on Twitter or wherever. But at some point in the past couple of months, I saw that someone took a deep dive look at his career post-2019 and basically made the argument through numbers that he's just average and ordinary. You take out the MVP, and he's not as special as he was that year. Remember how special he was in 2019. We're now 3 years removed from it. I mean, 3 years removed from Cam Newton's MVP season. He was not nearly the guy that he was the year that he took the NFL by storm. Last one, JF1616. Why are the Packers above the 49ers when they lost Devontae Adams to the Raiders this offseason, and the 49ers have been steadily beating them in the playoffs in recent years? Well, I mean, this is simple. First of all, it's not like there's a 10-spot gap. It's 5, 6, 7. Yeah, right. Packers at 5, 49ers at 7. And no one connected directly or indirectly to the 49ers should be complaining about the 49ers at 7 when their quarterback is completely and totally unproven. And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that this decision to keep Jimmy Garoppolo around isn't going to implode upon itself. But the 49ers have a great roster. They have no questions at any position other than quarterback. That's why they're behind the Packers, though. The Packers have Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur has been a phenomenal head coach. He's won 13 games 3 straight years, 13, 13, and 13. That's an incredible start to his career. He gets overshadowed all the time when we talk about great coaches in the NFL. And you consider the mess that he's been in the middle of, the disputes that he's been trying to mediate between Aaron Rodgers and the front office. He's kind of the go-between who's caught between dysfunction on each end. I think the Packers deserve the spot that they're at. My question is, can they get enough out of the receiving corps to finally make an assault on a Super Bowl? And Charean, my take on the Packers is, I was telling somebody this yesterday, and I think I've said it before in this show, they're going to be better suited to make a run if they're not the 1 seed. I feel like they crumble under the weight of that pressure. They need to be 5, 6, or 7. They need to go on the road. They need to feel like they have nothing to lose, that everyone is looking down on their chances, to play as freely as they did back in 2010 when they went from being the 6th seed all the way to the Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, when I look at that question, I smiled because I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers won the last 2 MVP awards. Of course they're going to be ranked ahead because they have the proven quarterback. And that's just it. I mean, you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to will them to wins, no matter who he has at receiver, no matter who he has in the offensive line or on defense or anything else. I mean, he's just that good. And if he plays as well as he did the last 2 seasons in the division they're in, Mike, you're right. They could end up with the number 1 seed. I do worry about those receivers, no question about that. But it's Aaron Rodgers, and we saw Tom Brady for all those years make good with whatever receivers they gave him, whatever receivers they were going to put out there. the Patriots were going to win that division, and I think it's the same thing with the Packers. The Packers are going to win this division. The question is, where are they seated after this season?
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.